How's it going, guys? I just wanted to quickly talk about a keyboard that I recently got in, just what the build process was like, adjusting to the keyboard, and just things like that. And this is my first kind of more custom keyboard where I did have to put it together myself. And that keyboard being the Mastrop OLKB Preonic V3. And I say kind of custom because this does come as its own kit, and this is a hot swap board, and the mass drop version or drop is hot swap, whereas if you buy it straight off OLKB, I believe it only comes in a solder version. So yeah, this is the keyboard that I recently picked up, and on the back it does say mass drop. So I am going to assume that these cases were maybe leftovers from the previous run or whenever that happened. I don't really keep up with this stuff, especially on mass drop. So yeah. So first I want to go through the build process of this board, and the build process of this was pretty easy. Most of my time I did stream it was just lubing my switches, which are Koala 62 grams version, and building this keyboard was very easy. There are two variants you can build, one that is kind of more of a almost floating kind of plate design, or one where you actually secure the plate to the PCB and case. And I originally went with the more secure build where you do have nuts and screws holding everything together, but I found that the brass nuts that you're provided tend to cut into the screws that they provide you. The screws are pretty soft, so I found that when I tightened everything up, sometimes the screws would strip, and that's not great because getting the screws out then is surprisingly difficult. So yeah, and I don't know what happened there. Maybe I didn't tighten it enough originally, but everything was tight when I did first build it, so it could have loosened up over time as well, even though I only had it for a couple days now. And none of the nuts that they provide are locking nuts, so that is possible, especially if I'm moving things around a lot. So yeah, I went back and rebuilt it without any of the nuts, so the plate's kind of floating and the screws kind of protrude, not doing much, so I might get different screws just to make things look a little cleaner. Not that you can see it, but there are screws that kind of poke out and don't really do anything but hold the PCB in place. So I did actually have one more hiccup with this keyboard, and that revolves around the spacebar here, because on my keyboard, on my layout, it's the only stabilized key, and I originally wanted to put a Durock screw-in stabilizer here, and that didn't work out because this PCB won't let you do it. So because of how much flexibility you have on a hot swap board in terms of the layout, a lot of the hot swap sockets are pretty close together to other holes in the board, and I found that when I tried placing the screw-in stabilizer, it interfered with one of the hot swap sockets, not one that I was using, but it still did kind of interfere where the screw wouldn't go down all the way. It got, the head of the screw got caught on the bottom of the hot swap socket. And some people said it works, and some people have just squished the hot swap socket. I don't really want to do that to this board. If I do want to change out the layout, I want to still have that flexibility. So I opted to use the clip-in stabilizers that they include in the package. They include two because you can do a two-use spacebar kind of layout. Of course, you don't have to have them both assigned to spacebar. You can have one set for backspace or something. But yeah, so I ended up using the clip-in stabilizer, which now works great, but before I used a different clip-in stabilizer, the other one that was included in the package. And I lubed it how I normally would with some kind of normal switch lube on the housings, and then Permatex dielectric grease on the joints by the wire and for the wire itself. And I found that it made my spacebar stick a lot. And I haven't had this problem with any of my other keyboards, even with the bigger stabilizers. On my previous keyboard, on my 60%, I used that for all my stabilized switches, and I might have had to remove a little bit of lube here and there, but I've never had like a problem with a spacebar returning. So that was weird. Got to go back and switch this stabilizer out again, which wasn't great because you have to remove all the switches, take off the plate and all that. And this time I lubed it with just 205G0 and it works great. And the stabs come pre-clipped and everything, so it's a pretty seamless installation with that. Apart from that, I do want to talk about the kind of overall look, including the keycaps that are kind of bundled with this keyboard. So I got the purple color here, but in a lot of light, it ends up just looking like normal, like silver, kind of like a gunmetal almost. So I think that's really cool. I thought it would be more purple and match these keycaps more, but I'm not actually upset with this. Just more of a surprise, and I actually really like this color. Apart from that, I did get the keycaps, the Acute keycap set with the board, and this is a PBT cherry set, which I think for 30 bucks is a great deal, because finding cherry profile PBT ortholinear caps tends to be quite difficult, at least from what I've seen. I do want to eventually get something a bit nicer, maybe even something GMK, because so far I love this keyboard. But when it comes to this keyboard, I don't really like the legends. They're almost kind of codey, gamery kind of vibe, like not even like real coding, like when you see like a person in a movie coding, that's what I imagine this typeface is based on. So I'm not a huge fan of this. And apart from that, the icon mods are very confusing and don't really match my personal layout for this board. But they're icon mods, and frankly, I don't know what most of these even mean, so it doesn't bother me too much. So finally, I do want to talk about the layout, because that's the most unique thing about this keyboard, as it is ortholinear, which means that the keys are arranged in a grid manner. The only thing that you can really change in terms of layout on this keyboard in particular is this bottom row. You can have two 2U keys, then you miss out on, I think, well, you should miss out on two 1U keys on the bottom row, but if it's something you really want, it's there. Or you can have all 1U keys on the bottom, which is interesting. I might try that in the future, but I think some people might be concerned about having a small space bar there. And for me personally, it isn't really an issue. I only really use my left thumb when I type, so yeah, that's probably not great, but it's what I'm used to. And apart from that, I was worried about being able to reach, because I do have quite small hands, but it's not really a problem. I might end up pressing the very left side of the key, but so far I haven't really had any issues. In terms of muscle memory of things like tab, shift, control alt for things like games, I haven't been having any issues there either. So I want to finally touch on the actual layout of the keyboard, and I might be a bit biased because I do come from a 60% keyboard, which fulfills all my needs in a keyboard, except for maybe the arrow keys, which you do have a cluster down here, set up kind of like DDR style, or Stepmania style, and yeah, that's the only thing that I really missed from a 60%, so I could have gone 65%, but I did want something smaller, which this is by quite a bit, and this meets most, if not all, my needs as well. Having the arrow keys is nice, because there are some games that do require you to use arrow keys, so things like GTA 5, I think is a bit easier to navigate with actual arrow keys, or MapleStory, if you're from the old days like I am, you're going to use a keyboard and mouse for MapleStory. So yeah, I'm not going to use a controller for MapleStory. That's never going to happen. And having dedicated arrow keys makes that possible. Apart from that, I am missing plus minus, as I think I previously mentioned, as well as the delete, home insert cluster, but that's all available on function rows. You can reprogram this keyboard in QMK. This keyboard doesn't have VIA compatibility, which kind of sucks, but QMK is a bit clunky, but it works. And personally, once I set it, I typically don't need to touch it again, unless if I'm missing a key here and there. Like I was missing a tilde, and when I'm playing Counter-Strike and stuff, I might want that. So I have it set to lower and the tab key, because up top I have 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to the plus key. And finally, with regards to the adjustment period for this keyboard, honestly, within the first hour or so of using this, I found that I was picking up speed quite a bit on this keyboard, but I found myself a little bit alienated when it comes to typing on a normal staggered keyboard. So that's a little bit of a quirk, I guess. But so far, I've been really enjoying this keyboard. The adjustment isn't too bad, and any of my typos really come from kind of typing too fast, I guess, or proper punctuation. Because when I'm typing to my friends, I'll usually omit things like proper capitalization, proper punctuation, that kind of stuff. But if I'm writing like an email or something, I might have to slow down a little bit, because some of the keys on the right here feel a little bit far, because everything on this keyboard is aligned left in terms of the alphanumeric keys. So everything is aligned left. So it's literally the like picture you see on like Word and stuff, where it's aligned left rather than kind of centered. So you have your keys coming out as a cone. So yeah, it's a bit quirky, weird, but adjusting to it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And I think a lot of people think it's a bit intimidating to use something that's a little bit different from what they're used to, but I love this so far. I still do need to get used to adjusting my hand, because now that all the keys are straight up and down, I can just rest my hand normally, rather than, I find that if I'm typing on a normal keyboard for too long, I tend to kind of tilt my wrist out, which doesn't feel all that great. And you know what? For comparison, I guess, I will do a typing test on this. I don't expect to do too well. I'm really just going to type out words and see what happens. So that's going to wrap up this video. Overall, I think the Drop OLKB Preonic is a great keyboard overall. I think there are some weird quirks and quality issues here and there, and they haven't really addressed that for a while, it seems like, because it seems like the problems that I had exist in previous versions as well. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But apart from that, I do think ortholinear is kind of where I'll be for at least the next year or so. And I think it's worth trying if you're even remotely interested in it. So that's exactly what I did. I just purchased this keyboard because it's hot swap, so it's easy to put together and build. And it comes in a kit, which also helps with that. And it's pretty affordable, I'd say. And you can get everything you need with the kit. Personally, I did put my own switches in it, but if you did want something like Gateron, KL, or Cherry, I think Drop provides all of those switches, but I did want something a little bit more unique for this. So yeah, I think this is a great buy. If you don't want to spend the money, look for a friend who has an ortholinear. If you can't find anyone, there are cheaper options out there. I think Keybio does have some, but I think they might only come in a grid layout, and they are soldered usually. It's been a while since I've been on their website, so I can't say with 100% certainty, but I love this keyboard. I just want to change the keycaps on it, and then this will be on my desk for a while. It's smaller than a 60%. It gives me most of that functionality in the smaller package, and getting up to speed on this keyboard wasn't really a huge issue. So yeah, it's been a great experience for me. Of course, that might differ for other people, but for me personally, I so far love this keyboard. So just to wrap this video up, if you found this video informative or anything like that, be sure to leave a like or subscribe or any of that stuff. I don't really expect that many people to watch this video, but it's here if anyone's interested. And if you have any questions about this keyboard, you can always leave a comment or hop onto my Twitch channel where I stream almost daily. There will be a little bit of a lull period because I am moving in the next week or so. So that's gonna obviously cause a few hiccups, especially if my internet doesn't get set up there right away, which would suck. But yeah, so if you have any questions about this keyboard, just let me know and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible on that. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one because I apparently make videos now. So yeah, peace.